right, guys. Everybody was afraid. There were a bunch of comments in there. They were like, make sure if you do nothing else, you bring back Black Jaded Wolf Uncaged. People actually in some of the DMs said to me, as a matter of fact, you could just hit record, stop talking, and just let Black Jaded Wolf, just let her do her thing. Don't say anything. We don't even care about you, Cage. Just let her make sure you're like a national treasure that needs to be saved. And here we are, lucky number 13, our 13th episode. The people are going to be thrilled that you're back. Welcome back. I'm so excited to talk to you. Thank you for joining Black Jaded Wolf, Sharon.
I'm excited. I thought I'm gonna be like in Hades for a while, but we're back.
We haven't even taken like any kind of a real break. I mean, we were right before Mint. We did one, and we did one right after. And I'm gonna right now give you flowers, right? Huge flowers, because it was 2 Wednesdays ago, and I hadn't recorded anything. I didn't record a thing, and the channel hadn't had anything posted on it in a while after after come back from Mint, and we were on the phone. We were just chatting. We were just walking. We're talking about the state of the hobby. We're talking about shows, what you thought about Mint, what was going on with Beckett. We were just kind of off the record, like 2 people in the hobby who talk. Just, what do you got going on? And you know what? Sharon says to me, she goes, I have so much to say. Can't we just record? Can you just? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm recording anyway. She's like, just send me a link. She's like, send me a link and let's just talk. I said, okay, let's do it.
Exactly.
So that's you.
This
is why people love you, because we're back because of you.
I appreciate it, but it's much to you, but
I mean, so what's fun is we have a bunch to talk about. Since we last spoke, we went to the Hofstra show, the East Coast National. I want to talk to you about, your prep for that show, how that show went, the different days, the stuff that went on there. And then, I think this past weekend, you might have taken a weekend off. We've probably done some private deals and that kind of stuff. And then what kind of shows you have coming up on the horizon. And also, if you didn't go to shows this past weekend, there were some shows. One of the things we've really never spoken about, because you are always going to shows, sometimes splitting your staff up and going to 2 shows in one weekend, is, sometimes you have to make a decision to not go to a show, and what goes into that decision as well. So let's start with Hofstra. All right. Right off the bat, boom. What kind of show? Was it a good show, bad show? Talk to me about it.
Hofstra was great. Tons of people both days. Usually Saturday might be great, but Sunday was packed too. And there was tons of deals to be made. Buying and selling was good, retail. It could be because of start of baseball season, because it is kind of baseball town. And then the news and football draft is coming out, starting this week. And so and then obviously the basketball playoff. It was just tons of things going on and tons of people. I bought a lot, probably more than I have bought in like the past 3-4 shows, which is good. And I also sold a lot of retail, which is a good mix. That's the tough part. The past few shows that I've been doing is like, it's either I retail a lot and not buy at all. So this is like a good combination. It's like middle last year was like the last time I bought and sold almost as good,
Okay, so for the folks listening, and we're gonna get to Sam, we're gonna get that stuff. So you bought and you sold retail, meaning you were actually getting comps or good prices for people because you're selling to collectors. What do you mean when you say you sold retail?
I sold a lot of regular kids, collectors, true collectors. So there's like 2 type. I mean, so when I'm in New York, I kind of put a lot of cheaper slab because I could bring them to the show, and take advantage that the local teams like the Mets are started hot, the Yankees just started to. So I bring a lot of judges, Pete Alonso, and the Knicks are also in the playoffs. So I put like a lot of slabs of like the younger kids, quickly, Quentin Grimes, and they all sold, which is great, What else? And then there's also people that was buying bigger stuff. I sold a couple of like $3,000 to $6,000 card, So that's like a very good combination that hasn't happened in a lot of shows. So there's also a couple of repack, but not as much. So it's like sometimes you want repack. Obviously, they're good for the hobby because they're putting it back in, but it kind of clears you out.
Yep.
It clears everyone out, and sometimes dealer can't buy because of that.
All right.
But
So, I mean,
yeah, it was a good mix in the show. Basically, there's repack, there's flippers, there's regular dealers, there's collectors, there's investors in the show. Basically,
You didn't just have to go there knowing I'm gonna bring a certain kind of hit kind of cards to sell to a wholesale, like sell to a repack person at 75 or 80% of comps. This way they can roll it in to their repack. This was a little bit of that, sure, but also kids buying Alonzos, kids buying Aaron Judges, and also people buying
Mhm.
people buying other cards. Otani, everybody's buying Otani. It's crazy.
Exactly.
Great start he's had to the year again. I mean, really an impressive player.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was there both days, and I give the guys who throw that show some credit. 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:15. Show opens Saturday, and I'm there 10:15, and there's a huge line outside. I mean, it took like a half hour to get in, which I haven't seen at that show in a while. I go to that show. It's local for me. That was interesting to see. A lot of people. That was before anybody knew Adam Sandler was showing up, right?
No, nobody knew that, and they kept that to the rest. The promoter knew about it, but they just didn't want to, post it about that because they don't want people to just come and like wait for Adam,
Let's
And
spend
then
the obligatory 2 minutes. Did you get to see him? Did you have any interaction with him? What was your Sandler story?
That's the thing. I'm so busy during that show. I literally like after this deal, I have to move my chair and go to this deal. It's like I literally people are like, "Oh, Adam Sandler." I didn't even have time to look where Adam Sandler was at, so I didn't get a chance.
Listen, she's not lying. This is not like, oh, I'm so busy, the whole deal. I remember both days. I think I offered water to you and your staff, and you're like, really? Okay, yeah. We can't leave. Like, we're not able to leave the table. I'm like, bring the water. Like they can't even get up and go.
Lunch or anything during that. Well, usually I have some time, but this time I'm a little busy.
I mean, the table is busy. I would say for a reason. I'm going to give you a little bit of kudos here. You're fair. Like on Sunday, I brought my wife to the show, and she even bought a card from you.
I know.
I mean, it's pretty
nuts. Story, but
Saturday, my son sold you a card.
Yeah.
And then bought wax. And on Sunday, my wife comes and buys a card from you. It's pretty funny. I mean, you're fair. You're easy to deal with. I see a lot of kids bringing stuff. And I go to the shows. I love just watching the interaction between different dealers and the kids and the people with their boxes of cards. And some people are like, yeah, no, pass. And some people are like, yeah, and you're like, listen, that's not exactly the card I'm looking for right now, or if it's a young kid, like, hey, maybe I can trade with you. I got something in this case, maybe. And you have an RJ Barrett, PSA 9 or something, take it from the kid, even if it's not a trade in your favor. You do the right thing. And I think that's why people come back. Did you have anything like that? I mean, because there are dealers who listen to this more than other daily content. They love to hear your insight. I would love to hear if there's like, oh, I did this for a kid, and the next thing you know, he's there with or she's there with an adult, and the adult comes back and buys something at your table, even if it wasn't this show. You ever have anything like that happen?
Some of my biggest customer are like that. I mean, one of my biggest friend now, he's in DC, and he literally doesn't come to show anymore and just come see me if he needs anything, buy or sell. Is because one time his kids, the first time they ever went to Chantilly, and then he asked me, "Oh, do you have a Michael Jordan?" So I showed him like a Michael Jordan jersey card, and I said, and he was so happy. He sold it to him for like $50. And when he got bigger, maybe teenager now, came back to a show. It's like, Dad, that's the girl who sold me my Michael Jordan card.
See?
And since then, the dad is like, me and dad is just like cool, we've been to their house, and all that stuff. So
I mean, you never know, right? You never know how that's going to play out, right? I mean, the easiest thing to do is just be good to everybody, right?
I always tell people it's innate. You have to, people could read it if you're fake or not. So I mean, just yeah, especially for kids. I mean, there are kids that's annoying, but it's both work both ways. There are kids that are like literally rude. One kid was like that weekend was like literally threw the money on my table.
Oh no, what do you mean?
So like I had to like Siobhan was so upset too because he's like, The card is 550. It's like he's offering me 300. I said I can't do that, And then he went up to 400, and I was doing a deal, and the guy and I said, and he's like, "How about 420?" I'm like, I said, you know what? Just so he stopped bothering me, I said 420. Fine, take the card for 420. And then he threw the money in the table and just left. I was like, so it's like sometimes you even regret. I shouldn't have just sold it.
Like, you brat kid. It's like, I'm hooking you up to get rid of you here, and then you're throwing money at me. That's all right. I mean, listen, guys.
But it's part of it, and I ignore that, and it's like one kid doesn't taint all the kids that are good. So
it works both ways. To the dealers listening to this, right? There's always something to learn from kind of being good. I've seen people that handed out shirts, they're handing out cards, they got freebie packs for kids. People do, for the most part, take care of kids, and not for business purposes, not because I expect the dad's gonna come over and spend $5,000, because that is the survival of the hobby, right?
That's the thing. You can't think that because you gave someone something doesn't mean they will come back and buy anything. Who cares? If you want to give a kid something, give the kid something.
I mean, but the flip side, if you're someone buying cards, even if a kid's listening to this, be nice. Come on, you just got a $400 card, $420 for it was a $500-$600 card you got for $420. Don't throw the money at people. I mean, come on with that stuff. Don't do that.
Yeah, and now I always remember that kid.
So a couple of things made me smile at the show. Golden was set up there, and they had some of their bigger pieces, and they were taking in stuff, and they had some stuff from their their elite auction. And the guys are sitting there with suits on. They have security, because it's high end stuff and suits, and they're taking in the cards. It's all computer, very professional with the golden backdrop. Yep. And they got one guy taking in cards, and he's got a fancy suit on. You know what he's wearing on his head? A Black Jaded Wolf hat. I was like, look at this! Look at that! I love it. It's with the slab, the Jordan slab. Like this.
Now, a couple of them are friends of mine, so they were good and supportive the whole time. So
you gotta love it. Your brand is out there. And the only other thing, and I'm curious your take about this, right? And whether or not there's a strategy on from both sides. I saw something at the show that is a dealer I buy from. Mostly retail blasters and stuff, but has 2 showcases with some good stuff in it. Okay. I've seen him at a couple of other, Long Island shows. I don't think it's somebody who travels, to, crazy shows, but I've seen him at other shows. And somebody comes over from, a breaking company and looks at the showcase, and you could see the bottom 3 rows of the showcase are the big cards that this person has, right? It's got some, nice Judge, some SGA, some good cards. Quick value on it, I would say probably, what do you call it? Book value? Do people even say that anymore? Book value, right? Remember that? Was about, no one says book value. I'm showing my age. All right, well, I'll stop using it. I'm not going to stop using it. Book value is probably about $40,000. That's not show value, but about $40,000 in the 3 rows is what I would say.
So this is not sell value. This is more like
it's probably a little less, but it's funny that's exactly where your mind goes. I would say, if you priced it out using the Beckett with the up arrows and the down arrows, it'd be $40,000. Sell value is different, and we can talk about that because you're going exactly where I was going to take you before I even take you there. So someone comes, a fast talker, let's call, with a filth bomb hat. Filth bomb breaks hat. Doesn't mean they work for filth bomb. They have a hat, just like Golden doesn't work for you, but they had your hat, and the hat doesn't mean anything. And he comes over and says, "Hey, you want to talk deal?" And the guy's like, "Okay, but let me just finish up with the kid here. Finish up with the kid." And they finish the deal. He says, "Bottom 3 rows, 22,000 cash right now." And the guy's like, "No. That's too little. I got it right here in this bag right now. Just take bottom 3 rows, all those cards, 22,000 cash. You sure you're saying no to this?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, it's not enough. It's worth $40,000 in cards." And the guy's like, he stops talking. Somebody else buys a box of cards. He's like, "Dude, I'm leaving. 22, you taking the $22,000? Like almost like a kamikaze kind of offer." And what was interesting to see was, I worked the numbers on it just really quick because I love watching this stuff. And I'm like, if he went to 32, I would take it from the dealer standpoint. I think the guy probably wouldn't go to 32. But what was funny about it is, and my questions for you: 1, something like this ever happened to you? 2, how do you handle it? 3, do you think it's weird that the seller, the guy whose cards it was, didn't come back with another number? Or do you just not have time to do that when there's other people at your table? Talk to me about something like that. Is this happening?
Yeah, all the time. I'm like, how much for this whole showcase? I don't even entertain it, to be honest with you. Because usually they don't come close to the number. If you want to be serious about it, let's check comps. Because you know what? To me, it's like a mutual respect thing. I don't want to get burned, but I don't want to burn you also. If I price something wrong, and so if you're serious about it, come back before the show or after the show, or even at that time. Because if that is buying a lot of stuff, it is big money. I understand that. But sometimes it's also, especially you're talking about a guy that only have 2 showcase.
Yep.
He get full. Sometimes he needs card to attract people to come to his showcase, to his booth, so he could. If they don't buy the cards, they might buy wax.
Yep.
So that's the thing. If you buy it all out from him for half or even a third of, he might not sell it. To be honest with you, because. Where is he going to rebuy those things at a third to even build up that showcase again? So to me, it's sometimes I don't entertain it if I'm not busy. If you're close, I will consider it, because most people, I could just take a look how much my showcase and I will see if you're close or not. And sometimes people are not close. And let me tell you, to people, 22,000 in this hobby is not a lot anymore. So, I mean, years ago, it might be different, But right now, a lot of these people don't get that they saved their money during pandemic and sold a lot of stuff, and they don't care about your 22,000 anymore,
Right. Yeah.
So it's just, and sometimes it rubs people the wrong way too when you approach it like that. Most of the time, if I really want that whole 3 row, I will come up before even adding or offering any money. I'm like, are you okay with me comping it and do a percentile? That's how I usually approach it, and they'll say yes or no. Because some people are like, nah, I know what I paid for it. I don't really look at comp, or some people will say that, and I'm okay with, like we said, book value. They might consider book value.
It's funny. A lot of what you're saying makes a lot of sense, because I mean, first of all, I didn't even think about, like, hey, the cards in the showcase for someone who only has 2 showcases is, that's also kind of like an advertisement. That's like they're come look at my cards, and then if you don't buy the cards, there's wax here for you to buy also. It's an interesting point. And then also, what are they doing at the show? They've now sold at basically 55% of comp. All their stuff. They're not going to go walk the show and find stuff cheap enough to resell. I mean, it's going to be very difficult to do that. Really, what my thought was, is that a buying tactic? Like, did this buyer, it's almost like shark behavior, right? Did this buyer scope out this table that wasn't one that looked as professional as the other one, didn't have a bunch of, but had cards on it that are resellable? They definitely were, valuable cards. And they said, you know what?
It's definitely a tactic. Yeah.
It's like, I'm put the seller on the spot. Because this seller is not making $22,000 at that show. They're not, right? They're not going to do that. They're probably not going to do that. You know what? I'm going to offer, it's basically 55% of the comp. I know I can go to the next show and resell. This guy might not be at the next show, to really make them think, because I like what you're saying, right? It's
a little harder now, because there in that show, there is 3-4 repack that will pay more than that. But it's a little hard, and that's why Dallas at some point is good when it comes to that, because you'll get repack people are offering strong offers because there's competition. If they move to, let's say they leave the showcase, somebody else will pounce on it if they don't buy it, especially if you're offering 50-60%. Nobody in their right mind in good cards will sell it at that price right now, especially a dealer.
Yeah, to give the dealer credit, he didn't even really pay it too much mind. He's like, no, not. You're way too low. And he didn't say, like, all right, I'll go, whatever. He didn't take even the time to, waste and comp it out, and the whole, like, it almost died on the vine right there. The guy was continuing to press her, like, are you sure you're passing this? I got the money right here. That's a lot of cash. You just walk out with that cash. And the guy's like, no, you're not even really close. Like, it's not going to happen. I even said, what about 32? Would you do 30? Like, I even, like, let me throw it in there just because I wanted to talk to you about it, right? And see whether or not I can make it a little spicier.
32 is something to consider,
So I said, what about 32? And the guy's like, who's this guy? this guy knows comps. Does does he actually own these cards? Or I thought you owned the cards. Why am I talking to this guy? And the guy knows who I am. So he's like, no, I would trust his numbers. Trust me. He's not going to screw me. And so it was pretty funny. But the guy was like, all right, fine. I'm walking away. I'm going to go off of this 22,000 somewhere else. The guy's like, okay, good luck to you. I hope you find some bargains. It was funny. I had just never been at the table and seen something like that happen where it was like almost like a kamikaze. And then it died. It was like done. Like it didn't even go like 22-38, it was just done.
Yeah. So see, they know which dealers. Like nobody would do that to me right now. I mean, that's good and bad. Sometimes, because they're just afraid to offer me and they know I know my price point and stuff like that. That's the thing. It's like I build relationship. You need to know that I'll give you room, but you also got to understand I don't offer, not once did I offer people, can you sell it to me for 50%? It's just, okay, unless it's cheap dollar stuff that booked for $10 and I can't sell it for $5, then
now. You just said exactly. I got you using it. It's coming back.
Yes, some people use book. Oh, they book for $10. I'm like, you run it on eBay. It's like $3. I can't pay you 50%.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, listen, I just wanted to mention that just because I enjoyed seeing that, and you don't get to see that, right? Private deals, and you hear about all these trades, and people post, oh, I bought this whole showcase, and it's on YouTube and has 4 million views. I thought I was going to be, witnessing one of these, Mondo deals coming here. I know 22 grand for you is that's nothing in the hobby, but I didn't see many $22,000, to $40,000 deals going on. And it was
bound for White Plains. Oh, for a Hofstra.
Yeah. See, listen, I enjoyed that. There was a couple of folks at the show who, who was their first or second time setting up. I like talking to those guys and seeing, how they did, and if they enjoyed themselves. I may even have one guy, a listener of the show who's now done 2 shows. Maybe have him on. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I may have him on as a guest, even though folks don't know who he is. I think that's a cool perspective of, like, all right, I'm a collector. For the longest time, I collected during this stuff, and my basement got a little crazy. My wife wanted to kick my butt, so I decided to set up a show. And what do you do? And did you have fun?
He listens to us, like how to set up and what to bring and stuff like that. Yeah, so it was his first show. Yeah, he did it good, so which is good.
So, and on yours, because you are the card show extraordinaire, a lot of people I spoke to didn't have the same read that you did. That Saturday and Sunday were both good. Most people said Sunday was worse. I mean, I would expect that. But you said Sunday was also deals being made.
Yeah. It was good for me. Yeah, I mean, it's really tough because that's the thing. So my perspective is, it's kind of tough because some people know me and just come to me and stuff like that. So, some people might not. And I also have very broad, like I carry all sport. Some people just carry football. Some people just carry slabs. I deal with everything. So I try to cover every spectrum of it. But, so I might not know if this is just my opinion. Like I always say, this is just my opinion in the show and how I do.
Well, this is your backyard too. So I mean, the cool part about it is you're able to kind of, you're not lugging the stack of RJ Barretts and Grimes and Jalen Brunsons on a plane with you. It's in your backyard. You're able to kind of, really, grab the stacks of stuff that you think are going to sell, the local stuff, and be able to move it. So that's, I mean,
I have one table. I have 4 tables here. So, with like 3 people working with me. So, this is like you said, my local, and I've built this. It took me like 20 years really to build kind of New York as my ground, to buy and sell. So
5 minutes. Normally what we do is we sometimes talk about 2 shows with you because we do this every other week, and we'll talk about, okay, what shows you went to, what shows you're prepping for. So the last 5 minutes here will be what we're prepping for. But before we do that, this past weekend, there was, I think it was showing in Florida, but there was a show in Toronto, the Expo. but you didn't go to those. So talk to me about kind of like the decision process. What goes into, should I go to this? Should I not? The pros and cons. Whenever I'm making a decision, I grab a legal pad and put the pros and the cons. I actually do like a little write. Do you do something like that, or it's just
I do a mental note basically. So during Hofstra, I met this guy that wants to sell. He's moving back to his country and he wants to sell his whole collection. He's a retiree, and you know what? We kind of agreed on good price, fair for both of us, and he wants to sell everything. So I said, you know what? I wanted to take this whole month almost like a break anyway. I will only do local shows and maybe one away show. So basically, and the two shows are in Minnesota and in Toronto. It's not close. So I'm like, let me just do a local deal and do some PSA job on the weekend for me and just, clean up the office a little. And that's what I basically did, met with the guy. It's in the first stage. I got to go back again and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like, so I go to shows because I wanted to buy stuff, right? Buy deals. I could always sell anywhere. I could sell online. I could sell in different platform. I could sell directly on videos with people. So I don't travel to show just to sell. It's mostly to buy because, different dealers, sometimes you do too much of your local show. You want to explore to other shows and look at other deals.
By the way, this is an important thing you just said, and probably sounds weird to people listening to this. You're setting up at a show as a dealer, not to sell. I mean, you sell your cards, obviously, but you're setting up and going to these places because you want to be able to buy, because you don't know what kind of deal flow is going to come your way, whether it be from the other dealers who are set up there or retail, people walking in and selling you cards.
Yeah, that's the main reason, because you keep setting up in your three local shows only. You keep seeing the same people that goes in and out. You need to travel. It's very important now to travel. And then not on that, if you're a dealer that want to prep and sell stuff to repack during Dallas, you got to go to other shows to try to pick up
inventory.
Stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
100%.
Exactly. So I debated on maybe just flying there and buy for a day, but I usually don't like doing that because I like to sell and sit there and actually meet people. So I'm like, oh, it was a toss up. So I decided, but then it helped me that I'm meeting another customer to buy anyway.
Yep.
So
what's the next show? What's the next show? What's the next show you're setting up at?
Next show is Dallas and in early May. And then there's a couple of local show in Jersey that I'm still debating, and Boston show, I think.
Finland is May 20th. So yeah. Dallas, we'll probably do our show after Dallas. The next time we do, you'll be coming back from Dallas. So we can talk about that. Dallas, obviously, you set up a little differently. You're now going to bring repack type of stuff, right? To sell more wholesale than retail as we started, right?
Well, that's also, besides that, it's also kind of middle of the playoff. Like there's 4 or 5 teams. If there are certain players that, that's doing well and you want to unload some before, finals, it's perfect to like unload some.
Escape out of the second round, out of this round here, and they're playing against the Heat, who are beatable, or an injured Giannis Bucks team, and the Knicks are actually doing something okay there. You might be able to unload some Knicks stuff, something like that.
Definitely. Brunson took a big spike the last week or two because he's been playing very clutch. Anthony Edwards too. I mean, they might not get out of the series, obviously, but his stuff went up a lot.
Well, after the first game where he didn't even get double digits, we were talking about him and saying, "Wow, you're going to be that guy." Remember, the last time we talked was right after that game, and you're like, "I need somebody who's going to not have a single digit game in the playoffs." And look what he did. He 41 points the day he gave out.
So that's the thing. It's like certain people, like, it's like RJ Barrett sometimes have single digit points, but it takes him a while to like get a really good game. I mean, this whole series, he hasn't really had a great game yet, but you could see Anthony Edwards got upset at first game, and every game is like 30 and more games, I mean,
he's turned it around. He's, if this is the time, make it your team, go ahead and grab it. Don't go down. Don't get swept. Personally, he had a big shot last, in the last game of the series there. So, listen,
he proved that it's his team going forward. So
I was thinking about Edwards today because if you think about who have been the big card buys for the last couple of years, right? Cade Cunningham not in the playoffs, right? LaMelo not in the playoffs.
Luka's
Luka
not.
not in the playoffs. Zion not in the playoffs. Ja is, but people are still kind of shy on Ja. So you really just have Edwards. You know, I mean, he's kind of like, you know, the flag bearer for the young, you know, investment cards, right? I mean, Paulo Banchero was not in the playoffs.
Yeah, Tatum is a little older, but Tatum is in that category. But Anthony Edwards is just so young. He's only like 21 years old. So for him to do this, it's actually early. But yeah,
Luka's 24. So I mean, remember, people might forget it. He's been playing for so long, but he's still young too. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But don't buy Luka in Dallas. People are not giving you any bargains there.
no, people love their Luka there.